September is Recovery Month. We sat down with a CCSCK patient going through addiction treatment along with two members of the addiction treatment team to get an insight on her journey. Summer has always been someone to help others, starting when she was a child, assisting her family in taking care of her sister who has cerebral palsy. As an adult, she works as a direct service worker for a man who is quadriplegic. She helps with his daily needs, cooks for him, and even helps his daughters as needed.
Something I've done my entire life. So, yep, so that's where that comes from, I guess. I just kind of fell into it.
Summer sees peer support specialist Melba Marsh and licensed addiction counselor Holly Engelbrecht. Both are also in recovery. In order to be a peer support specialist, you must be in recovery.
Because I am just like them. The only difference between me and the client sitting in my office is maybe the last time that we used something or drank something. I haven't had anything for 10 years, and they might have used yesterday or the day before or last week or whenever, but I let them know that I'm still just like them. This is not like a job for me. They say when you have a job you like, you'll never work another day in your life. That's where I'm at. People helped me to get where I am in recovery, and I want to help someone else get to where I am in their recovery. I'm very passionate about being a peer support specialist because I like to plant the seed, but they have to water it. So being in recovery is not a sit in the chair on your bottom and expect it to happen overnight. It doesn't work that way. You have to put some action into it.
And Holly, she went to become an addiction counselor years after she began recovery. She's been in recovery for 35 years.
I got sober when I was 22 in college, and I did that through going to treatment, having counseling, being a part of the 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous. And part of recovery, no matter what route you take, it's important that you give back to other people who are struggling with addiction. That helps you to stay clean and sober. I am grateful every day that even if I can just help one person find their way and find a better life than they've had in their addiction, then I feel like I've been successful. I just feel very blessed and very grateful that I'm able to do this work and hopefully help people realize that they're not bad, that they have an addiction, a disease, however you want to reference it, and that it takes daily work to grow in your recovery.
And I love both of them very much. They're awesome.
In addition to having peer support and a counselor, Summer participates in medication-assisted treatment, also called MAT, which provides medication to reduce the physical symptoms of detoxification.
Just listening is a big part of it. Just listening and understanding, and both of them, being in addiction recovery themselves, that's a big support system, and I'm lucky that I have that. So yeah, have your peer support person, which mine's Melba, and you'll have a counselor that you have to see at least every 2 weeks, I think. And I use Suboxone. That's the medication that helps with like cravings. I don't have any cravings for anything, that I shouldn't be taking. And it also helps with pain, which was part of the reason why I became an addict in the first place, was I could not get pain relief. And so that it does a double duty kind of for that.
The integrated care at CCSCK is beneficial to the needs of patients in addiction treatment.
I can communicate directly with the doctors that there are their primary care physicians if they have one here. I can communicate with the MAT nurses directly if I have a question about treatment that's happening with the MAT program. I can communicate with the behavioral health counselor that they might also be seeing. And just that line of communication that everybody knows what's happening with that patient, and so you're not struggling to try to figure out how are they doing behavioral health wise and how is that feeding their addiction, or vice versa, how is their addiction feeding their behavioral health issue. We can just go directly to each other and say, hey, this is what's happening, what are you seeing? And that helps a lot in their treatment on both sides, medically, behavioral health, addiction counseling, and whatever else they might be having.
Summer has had several life challenges, and she shared them with Melba and Holly.
It's one of the hardest things I ever had to do, to admit I had a problem, because I didn't really think I did until I started looking back at some of the things that had happened. And when you can be honest with yourself, that's when you need to make the call and get in to see somebody, you know, and they can help you from there. I kind of let people walk all over me, and I had a hard time saying no and setting boundaries. That was my biggest problem. I just did things to keep the peace, and so I was kind of miserable. You know, I wasn't very happy with that, and that's where everything started to go downhill. Is when I was seeing I was kind of being used by people, and I wouldn't do anything about it because I didn't feel like I should. I wanted to help people, you know, and I thought, well, if I do it for them, they would do it for me. And then I got thinking maybe they wouldn't. So that's kind of how that went.
Life got particularly difficult following her mother's diagnosis of cancer. Summer became her mother's caretaker. Then she too became ill.
And I was taking care of her, but I was also working for my client, helping him do his daily stuff, and then I have to come home and do my mom's. And then I ended up getting deathly ill and had a near-death experience and surgery, emergency surgery that took me out of work and being able to care for my mom for a long time. And that's when things really started getting out of hand. And then she passed, and then it was like even worse after that. So yeah, that's where all that started, and I was ready, you know, to get the help, and I knew I needed help. It's just something that's really hard for people to admit. And I think that I am my own worst critic, but also my own worst enemy at times, and I recognize that. And so I was like, yeah, I got to do something. So I'm glad I did.
Most of the time, the client will call and make an appointment to see us. Sometimes they are court ordered, or it's TFI or something, but we do have a lot that comes in and wants the help. And Summer said it, that is the hardest thing most of the time for them to do, is to call and ask for help, because we don't want to admit to ourselves, let alone to someone else, that we need that help. And that's what community health is there to do, is help them with whatever they need. So when they come in, I ask them a few questions to kind of get to know them, see where they're at in their recovery, and then we talk about that a little bit, and then they go to start seeing a counselor. But my job doesn't quit there when I pass them on to a counselor. I'm calling them and checking on them just to see how they're doing, you know, catch up with them. And most of them are very grateful, because I do reach out. And they say, thank you, Melba, for reaching out. You know, that they're glad to know that someone does care. And that's, at CHC, we do care. I want them to have what I have. I want them to have 10 years. And I want to help them on that journey, on that road that is going to have hiccups, speed bumps, life in general is still going to happen. And I want to help transition that from point A to point B.
Screening tools are used to determine what level of treatment the patient qualifies for.
One being outpatient, two being intensive outpatient, where they might attend groups and have individual counseling, that kind of stuff. And then level 3 is inpatient treatment, where we would make a referral for them to go to treatment for 28 to 30 days, and then come back to us for outpatient treatment, hopefully, to continue their process. Once I've established with a patient, my job is to make a treatment plan with them, set goals, interventions for them to be successful in their recovery. It looks different for every patient. For some people, they're very interested in doing a 12-step program like AA, NA, one of those programs. Some people don't want to do that, so I might refer them to something else like the MAP program that we have, which is medication assisted treatment. Some of our patients need that to start out their recovery. Some of them might want to start something called Smart Recovery. There's just different avenues that I can take them down, and that's tailored for each individual client.
Overdoses in the southeast Kansas area have increased significantly, with Cherokee County and Crawford County being the highest counties for potential overdose.
When I was going to school, probably 12, 13 years ago, to pick up my accreditation to be a counselor, meth was referred to as an epidemic, which that hadn't really occurred in the addiction field for a while, and it still continues to be 10, 15 years later a huge problem in this area. We're one of the biggest areas for that issue, and so that's one of them. Teenage vaping has increased, significantly. So that's a concern that we have in this field. And then also marijuana use has always been, in my opinion, as a counselor, something that was hard to deal with patients because of how it is viewed so differently from all the other chemicals that people can use. And that's only been impeded by it becoming legalized in a lot of the surrounding states, which has caused it to increase in our state, the legalization of it. So that's given us another barrier to kind of have to work through.
The members of the addiction treatment program are working toward destigmatizing addiction treatment and helping remove some of the barriers for patients, such as transportation, by utilizing telehealth.
I think, like I've heard Melba and you guys referred to Summer referencing, just the stigma of the addiction issue that they might have and how the general public or society looks at that. And even we in the field of addiction counseling have had to look at how we refer to things. We used to refer to clean, dirty, as far as UAs and stuff like that. And we've really tried to clean up our language in that, it just shows positive for a substance or something. So there's that, just the overall stigma to having an addiction. But I think as far as I have noticed just in the short time I've been here, transportation is just such a huge issue, and it continues to be in rural areas. I have patients that even just live in Baxter that have a hard time coming here because they don't have the money for reliable vehicles or the money for gas or that kind of thing. And so we work really hard to try to circumvent those issues. So I just think it's really important that during Recovery Month we talk about this kind of stuff because I think, again, the general public doesn't really comprehend or understand what addiction is. It doesn't have as big a stigma as it used to have, but it still is something that's really hard for people. If I have cancer, it's not hard for me to go to a doctor and ask for help. If I have an addiction and I'm having trouble with a substance, that's a whole nother ball game, and it's hard for me to go in and say I have this problem. And if people look down on me because of it, that's not going to help at all. We need to meet people where they're at and help them start the journey.
Love them until they can love themselves.
It's been a little over 2 years, and I'm doing really well. I've met all my goals in, counseling, such as, living on my own, having a car, having a full-time job, all of that. I was able to get all of that back, and I wouldn't change it for anything. And I have grandchildren, so now that's a lot of fun with the grandkids. So yeah, my life's good now.